Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. So we already know how mythology were purposely created so that the people of the native populations do not have any connection with their culture, traditions, or their languages. Three things were banned for the natives, even till date. When why will in the US no native language or tradition be taught in the campuses? The real tradition. Generally, the Europeanized version of traditions is on how the Europeans saw the traditions as that is being taught. But you will not see a native, very few, I think one college is there where they try to teach the natives teach their culture, but generally the culture is gone. Same in South America. South America is even worse. US has made some benefit, something better. Is even South America, you do not have the language available. You don't have the script available for the local languages. You don't even have the traditions documented. India is the only country in the world which promotes all the native languages, all of them. And they're promoted to be spoken as well. They're promoted and their literature is compiled by the locals, not by any other version. But the problem is the European versions are seeping into Indian education system also. Today I have very, very special guest, Dr. Rajesh Kumar Singh, and we are going to take you through the pages of Valmiki Ramayan and the actual photos of those locations. So let us welcome Shri Dr. Rajesh Kumar Singh. Namaskar.
Namaste Aditya ji and namaste to all the viewers. Thank you very much for joining. Uh, Today I'll be talking about, as Aditya ji has said, a very important place which has been described in detail in Ramayana and continues to be habitated and is a great pilgrimage center. Now, you all would recall that in my earlier discussion, I have talked about Kiskindha, I have talked about Prayagraj, and in one of the talks, I talked about Chitraput. So, when Rama was asked by his father, Dasratha, to go to forest, he first moved from Ayodhya to Prayagraj, and there he was directed by or advised by Rishi or sage Bharadwaj when he was looking for a beautiful place which would be comfortable for the Janki, that is Sita, and both the brothers. They were advised to stay in Chitraput. Now they stayed there for a long time. But slowly there were some disturbances in that area and the nearby area, and the sages and the rishis who would be engaged in tapasya, prayers, meditation, they would come to Rama and complain that now we are being disturbed by the persons belonging to a demon or the Rakshasa known as Khara. So Rama thinks that now is the time to move further in the dense forest so that he can attend to these problems and make the forest a safe place for living for the Brahmanas, the rishis, the sages. So he goes to a place, Rishi Atri's ashram, and there they were welcomed by Rishi Atri and his wife Anusuya, who gives boon and a lot of ornaments to Sita. And he directs that you move further to southern area. So their journey to the Dandakaranya, Dandak forest, Aranyak means forest in Sanskrit, and they start moving towards southern area. So when they come to this area, they come across a lot of huts which belongs to sages, and naturally the sages would tell about the condition that how of late lot of demons are troubling them. So Rama do assures them, and then he moves further along with his brother and Sita, and they encounter a demon who is known as Virat, and Virat is killed by them after some resistance by Virat, and it turns out to be that he was forced to take that form, and he was waiting for Rama to liberate him. So from there, they moves to Sarabhanga Rishi. Virat tells that you go to the Rishi Sarabhanga. So again, in the ashrama of the Sarabhang, they are greeted. And Sarabhang tells that you can stay here. I have done a lot of tapasya and I am now moving to Brahmalok. I was just waiting for you because I was told that Rama would come this way. And I just wanted to have your audience, darshan. And now I am moving, so you can stay here. But Rama says that he politely says that because of your grace, I have everything, but I am looking for a comfortable place where I can stay with my wife and my brother Lakshmana. So then Rama is advised by Sarbhang Rishi to go to another sage's ashram, and they move to Sutikshna Rishi's ashram. There also he is greeted as was the tradition there. He is offered fruits and other eatables, and they stay there in night. Sutikshna Rishi again offers him that you can stay in my ashrama or hut. You will be comfortable here. But then Rama again politely tells that I am again looking for a place where I can be there. So Sutikshna tells that you go around the place, move around here and there, and have idea of what kind of forest it is, and then you come back, and then I will guide you further. So after moving around, they come back to Sutikshna Rishi's ashrama, and then they are advised to go to Agastya Rishi ashram. So you see, one by one, they are meeting sages in the forest, where a lot of rishis or sages would stay and would be indulging into meditation and prayers. And when they finally reach Agastya Rishi's ashram, then they have this conversation again. Rama politely conveys that I with my brother and sister have come. And one of his people go and convey it to Agastya Rishi. And then Agastya Rishi naturally calls them and offers all the courtesies which is due to them. And then Agastya Rishi also tells that you be comfortable here, and I can, because I have done so much of tapasya, penance. So by that power, I can make this place comfortable for you. So there is nothing to worry about. But Rama, as Valmiki describes it, Rama seeks advice very politely. He says, Dhanyo asmin anugrihito asmin yasya me punipungava gunai sambhrati bharyasya vardah paritushyati. Rama says, O great sage, O Munipungava, O great sage, I am Dhanya. I am very happy, very lucky that you are happy with me, my wife, and my bhratri, that is brother, and bharya is Sita. However, kind vyadis me desham sodakam bahukananam yatra ashram padam kritva vasheyam niratashukam. So Rama does not want to depend on others for his day-to-day comfort, and does not want to stay in a place which already belongs to other sages, and in a way they would disturb them. That's his belief. In fact, he says that your ashrama is full of the deers, and by chance, because we are Kshatriya, I don't know, and we carry weapons, so by chance if we kill some of them in an accident or sikar, so it would disturb the very peace of this environment. So he said, Kintu vyadis me desham, so dakam bahukananam. O great says, I am looking for a place which is full of udakam, means water, bahukananam means it is forested. Of course, if there is a thriving forest there, then you will have fruits, roots to eat, so there will be no dearth of that. Yatra ashram padam kritva, where I can create my ashram and Vashayam Niratashukam. And we, Vasayam means we live there comfortably, Niratashukam, continuously with comfort with my wife and brother. So Agastya agrees to it and he respects the views of Rama. And you all would recall that when we were discussing Chitrakoot, so when in Prayagraj, that is modern Prayagraj, and it is the same name Prayag in Valmiki, since Valmiki Ramayana also. So Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana meets Bharadwaj Rishi there. And there also they had said they were offered the place to stay there, but they politely declined that and asked for a comfortable place. And then at that time, Bharadwaj Rishi has guided all the three to move towards a place which is Chitrakoot. And they stayed in Chitrakoot. So similarly, Rama is seeking guidance of his elders, sages who would know the forest area well. So on the request of Rama, here Agastya guides him as is described by Valmiki. Itah di ito it is itah, but in Sanskrit the word becomes ito. Ito dviyojane tat bahumula phalodakah desho bahu mrigashimanasya vatyabhi vishutah. So from here, 2 yojan means certain distance. Yojan is the measurement of distance when you convert it to miles. Tat bahumul phalodaka. There, lot of bahu means lot of. Mool is roots. Phal is fruits. Udaka means water. Desha deso bahu mrigashri. Manya panchavatya bhivishnuta. So this is the first time he is describing, Valmiki is describing Panchavati. And he says a lot of deers, mrigs are moving here and there. So you go there, that water is resplendent with fruits, and plenty of water. Tatra gatva asram padam kritva. You move there, tatra, move there, and you create an ashram, create a hut, cottage. Saumitrena saha ramaswatam. Ramaswatam means you be comfortable there. You live comfortably there. Piturvakyam, father's, the commitment which you have given to your father, tathoktam anupalayana. You do the anupalayan. You follow that. So Rama is told about Panchavati, and you see Panchavati hereafter has been mentioned a number of times in Aranyakand. So this is, you can see a proof, or this has to be realized that in Ramayana we have places which are mentioned as it is and are known by the same name since that time. And it's not one place, whether it is Kiskindha, whether it is Panchavati, Chitrakoot, Prayagraj, Sringverpur, Ayodhya, Janakpur. There are so many places and they are well distributed in India, and they are known by the same name, and they are still very popular for religious sense. So when advised by Agastya, they start moving towards Panchavati. Now you all would have heard Jatayu, but mostly the description is told when Jatayu fights with Ravana, when Ravana has abducted Sita. But Valmiki describes that Rama and Jatayu had met earlier. And when had they met? When Jatayu encounters Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana, they were just moving on the advice of Agastya Rishi in Dandakaranya. So Valmiki describes it like this. Ath Panchavatim, you see, Ath Panchavatim, in this Panchavati, Gachantara Raghunandana, while moving Raghunandana, that is Ramama, Asasada Mahakayam, Gridram Bhima Parakramam. Bhim Parakramam means mighty, who is quite mighty and has a lot of force or energy. Mahakayam Gridram. Gridram is eagle and he is of great shape. which you can see in the figure, which is taken from one of the popular TV serial which was made on this, and all the three are going in front of this. Now then a conversation starts. Initially Rama and Lakshmana seeing this shape and a big bird, eagle, feels that this is some kind of Rakshasa or demon, and they politely ask that who are you and why are you staying here? Then Jatayu in the beginning tells him that I am a friend of your father, Dasratha. Then Rama requests that kindly tell us about your race. Who are you? How you have descended? So it is very interesting that Valmiki through Jatayu tells not only the origin of Jatayu, he starts the birth of all beings, how Devta came into being, how demon came into being, how different birds, animals came into being. So Valmiki describes that in detail. But I would restrict myself to only the conversation between Jatayu and to specific to them. And in the end, Jatayu tells, Tasmat jato aham arunat sampati tu mamagraja Jatayu iti mama vidhi sheni putra arindama. Arindama means somebody who destroys the enemies. So Jatayu says, O Arindam, O destroyer of enemy, Tasmat jato aham arunat. So Arun is my father. From him, I and Sampati Mamagraja, my elder brother, have originated. Jatayu is my name, and Seni Putram, and my mother is Sheni. Mama Bidhi, you know me. So the introduction between Jatayu and Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita happens there, and now all four move towards Panchavati to find a very good location at that site. When they reach to the area which is known as Panchavati, then Rama says that to Jatayu that kindly take care of Sita. Meanwhile, we will find a very comfortable position, and they do recce of that area and they go around, and then Rama finds a way where the land is plain and a lot of forested area is there, and then he asks Lakshmana, my elder brother, now you construct a hut here where we can stay comfortably. And Valmiki describes how a hut is constructed by Lakshmana there. And it's very interesting that if you go in some of the villages in India, you can find the cottages, huts being constructed in the same way using different varieties of the grass and tree branches. So then when that Panchavati ashram is constructed, then Rama says, Idam Ramyam. It's quite beautiful. And they start living there comfortably. And they enjoy, then winter descends. Winter is also described by Lakshmana in Valmiki Ramayan in great detail. So that we can discuss sometime, another discussion. And they are staying there comfortably, and nearby is Godavari. So another, you can say, proof or geographical location that Godavari river is mentioned there in Valmiki Ramayan a number of times. And Panchavati is on the banks of the Godavari. And in modern time, if you see the map here, in the map of India, you can see Panchavati is in Maharashtra, in a city known as Nasik. And in the map M2, if you see, from Chitrakoot, which is on the border of, or it falls between border area of Uttar Pradesh, state Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. And from there, more than 1,000 kilometers they would have walked this place. Of course, not in a single day they did it. They did it over a period. They stayed there and then they moved around. So the modern Panchavati is on the banks of the river Godavari, which you can see in M3, another map. And if you go there, you will see the place is thriving. Of course, it's a place where even Kumbh fair is organized every 12 years. Prayagraj, Nasik, Ujjain, and Haridwar. These are the four places where in India you will find the mega festival Kumbh is organized every 12 years in one of these places, and Nasik is one of them. And this is the river Godavari, or on the banks you will have bathing ghats, and a lot of temples are there. And when you move around this area, in M1, say you move around this area nearby, you see a lot of temples, and devotees have erected Ram Sita temples. A smaller one I have shown. There are Kala Ram temple, there is Gore Ram temple. Panchavati is described what is its importance, and you have here Sri Ram Mahastam, where Rama's greatness has been described. So what I want to say is that what Valmiki described, which was a forest that time along the banks of Godavari, still retains its names, and it's a great pilgrimage center, and still continues to be associated with the Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, and there are other temples also built over the period. In fact, I just love to recite here one Hindi poem. Sri Mathili Saran Gupta describes. He has composed a poem known as Panchavati itself. And I'll just recite few paras in Hindi. चारु चंद्र की चंचल किरणें खेल रही हैं जलथल में, स्वच्छ चांदनी बिछी हुई है अवनी और अंबर तल में, पुलक प्रकट करती है धरती हरित तृणों की नोकों से, मानो झूम रहे हैं तरुबे मंद पवन के नोकों से। पंचवटी की छाया में है सुंदर पर्ण कुटीर बना, जिसके सम्मुख स्वच्छ शिला पर धीर धीर निर्भीक मना, जाग रहा यह कौन धनुर्धर जबकि भुवंभर सोता है, भोगी कुसुमा युद्ध योगी सा बना दृष्टगत होता है। So what he says is that he describes the weather there, and how it's a very comfortable place, wind is blowing, and earth is conveying its obedience to nature through green grasses. And but in this night, there is a yodha, or there is a boy, jag raha yeh kaun dhanu, there's somebody who is carrying his bow and arrow, who is awake in the midnight or in the deep night and is protecting somebody. So what he describes is that Rama and Sita, they are sleeping in the hut, and Lakshmana is taking and keeping guard at that time. And then another character, very important character, enters in the picture. She is known as Surpanakha. Surpanakha means somebody who has his nails as large as, there is a device through which we blow the grains here, and that is known as Shurpa. So see, while they are sleeping and Lakshmana is guarding, and then this dawn takes place, and then Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita are there, and there are different descriptions in Valmiki. They are Lakshmana, Sita, Lakshmana, and Rama in front of the hut, and she approaches Rama, and she says that you look very handsome. I mean, that is the summary. And why you are having a wife like this, indicating towards Sita. You marry me, I am very powerful. My brothers are very powerful. Khara, Dushana, Trishra, and Ravana, Marich, all are my relatives, and they are very powerful, and I am more powerful than them. Why are you staying with this lady? Do marry me. So Rama replies, there is a conversation, but Rama says, Krit daro asmi bhavati. See, very politely, when we say Bhavan, we give respect to anybody when we talk that is our tradition. So she says Bhavati. Bhavati means oh lady. Kritdaro asmi. I am married. Dara means my wife. Bharya yam daitamam. Bharya means wife here, and daitamam. So she is my wife. She is pointing out towards Sita and says that I am already married. Bharya yam daitamam. Tvad vidhanam tu narinam su dukha sa sapatnata. So you will not be very comfortable becoming second wife of me. So you see, this also points to a very important characteristic of Rama and in Indian tradition, Sanatan Dharma. People would have a lot of wives, multiple wives, I mean. It's not that it was bad, but Rama is Maryada Purushottam. He was king, he could have married many girls, but when Supnaka approaches, and that to in forest, and saying that this forest belongs to my brother, and I can roam here and there and take any form, you will be very happy with me moving in this forest, leave this lady. He very firmly tells her that I am already married and my wife is with me. And you will be, if what you desire becomes true, you will be second wife, and that you may not like. So he says that why don't you go to Lakshmana? He is my younger brother, he is handsome, and he is not with his wife. He doesn't say that he is unmarried. Many people would confuse. He simply says that he is not with his wife. Then she is full of lust. She moves towards Lakshman, and then she makes requests. She repeats the same argument that I belong to this place, I'm powerful, my brothers are powerful, so come and we will enjoy. But then Lakshmana makes a jest. He jokes with her. He says that, no, first he says that I am my brother's servant. I keep on serving him. So if you will marry me, you will just become wife of a servant, and that won't help you much, because your desire that you will roam around here with a husband won't be fulfilled, because I will be engaged in the service of my brother Ram and my sister-in-law Sita. So why don't you marry Ram? He says this in jest, and who is with this wife? Says in jest Sita that she is old and she is not beautiful. So hearing this, full of lust, Supnaka attacks Sita. Now seeing this, Rama becomes angry and cautions Lakshmana that you shall not make jest with a woman who is full of lust and is angry, and just take care that Sita is protected. Don't kill her, but mutilate her and leave her. So thereafter, Lakshman follows what Rama has ordered, and Valmiki describes it. Iti ukto, what was directed. Iti ukto means what was directed. Lakshmana tasya क्रुद्धो रामस्य पार्श्वतः उद्धृत्य खड्गम चिच्छेदम कर्णनाशम महाबला. So Lakshman sees that Rama is kruddha. Kruddha means he is angry. So he stands parsvatah Rama, that is beneath Rama, and uddhritya khadgam means he raises his spear. You can see in the figure here. Lakshmana is standing nearby Ram Sita, and he has raised his khadga or spear, and now he is about to cut the nose and ear of Supnaka. Uddhitya khadgam chichedam karnanasam mahabala. So Lakshmana, on the order of the Rama, cuts the nose and ear of the Shupnaka. Now the panel which you see on the screen is a very rare panel. And you all would know that Ramayana and Mahabharata had influenced Indian art form, and the events there have been described through painting, through sculptures on the walls of temple, throughout India over the period. But this panel which you see here, this belongs to National Museum. It is displayed there in Gupta Gallery. Now, Gupta period, GUPTA, Gupta period is the classical period or the golden period of India, where art, literature, sculptural art, they flourished tremendously, and the expression on the figure were quite expressive and divine. Here you can see there is a cottage here. Rama is sitting with his bow, figure number 1. Sita is standing a bit fearful. Supnaka is down on the earth, and Lakshmana is holding in his one hand spear and he's about to cut his nose. So this space, this sculptural piece is two of the rare pieces which have been recovered from a place known as Devgarh, which I have talked about earlier also. And this describes, I mean, this matches with the description in Valmiki. Later on, also, you will see Lakshmana cutting the nose and ear of the Shuplaka, but the description would not be thoroughly matching with Ramayana, because you would have plenty of literature coming, even Ramcharitmanas is there, and then painters would have their own creativity, which is allowed in Sanatana Dharma or Indian tradition, so there is nothing wrong in that. But what I'm saying to say that this temple was destroyed, and many temples of the Gupta period have been destroyed, whether it's Nachna, Kuthara, Bumra, or Devgarh, and very few panels we can say almost negligible. But so this is a very rare panel, and those who would like would have chance to visit Delhi National Museum, they shall certainly go and see this. So once this happens, that is Rama, on the order of the Rama, Lakshmana cuts the nose and ear of Suplaka. Suplaka runs away deep in the forest and approaches his brother Khara. I've already talked about Khara, that because of the Khara, Rama has to move from Chitku to Panchavati, because many sages had complained that they are being disturbed by the people of demons or the Rakshasa who belongs to Khara. So Supnaka seeks help of Khara, and then Khara sends 14 Rakshasa, and they are killed immediately by the Rama. He shoots 14 arrows, and then Supnaka again rushes back to Khara, and Khara would not have imagined that why Supnaka has come back, and he's asked that what has happened. They were my followers, so they would not have this due, and they are mighty enough. So what's the problem? Then, of course, Supnaka describes that they have all been killed by Rama without any effort on his part. So now Khara orders 14,000 people. I mean, he took an army of 14,000 Rakshasa along with him, and his brother Dushana and Trishra, they all moved with him. So you see, now there is a big fight which ensues, and in the process, Rama single-handedly takes on first the 14,000 Rakshasa and Dushana, and in last the Khara. And generally, this episode of Ramayana is not known very well. The major fight, the last fight which happened in Lanka, is well described, but Valmiki here also describes in detail how 14,000 Rakshasa comes and attack Rama, and one by one Dusasana is the general, he is killed. Then Trishira, another big general, is killed, and then another 12 generals are killed. And then the last fight is between Khara and Rama, and they both challenge each other. And Rama is also attacked, and he is hurt also, but he doesn't budge from his place, and he make use of the bow which was gifted to him by Agastya Rishi, which belonged to Vishnu. So when Agastya had just met earlier, we have seen, and he asked Rama to move towards Panchavati, he had gifted a bow which belonged to Vishnu and two arrows which belong to Mahendra or the Indra, that is king of the Devatas. Now Rama, in between the fight, he sees that he is not able to make much damage to Khara using the first bow. So he now keeps the first his own original bow on ground and takes the one which was gifted by Agastya, uses the two arrows which was gifted to Rama through Agastya from Mahendra, that is Indra, and he kills Khara. And in a later picture, you can see here that Rama, while he is preparing for fight, the major fight, when 14,000 Rakshasa comes, had ordered Lakshmana to keep Sita in an adjoining cave so that she is safe and take guard of him, and asked Lakshmana that you wait, because Lakshmana was very eager to fight with Rama, but Rama says that be comfortable, I'll take care of these demons. So here Khardusar has been depicted in a very later painting of in Kangla, is a place in India. So that continuity of the themes continues here. And then finally, when Khara is killed, then all the sages, they come, including the Agastya Rishi, and then they tell that this was the purpose, that we advised you through the sages to move from Chitrakoot to Panchavati. So you see, Panchavati is a very important place where a lot of things happened. Rama meets a lot of sages, he meets Jatayu, and then he kills. Suprabha comes, which leads to fight, ultimate fight with Ravana. But in between, he also kills 14,000 Rakshasa and Khara. The major one is the Khara. So to conclude, as you can see, that Rama is itihas. Itihas means something which has happened. It's not something which has come from imagination. And you see the places which have been mentioned in Ramayana not once, many times. Like Panchavati would have been mentioned at least 10 times. Godavari is mentioned 4 or 5 times. So, and they are very much there. And you see the cultural connect till date. And there are a lot of course, it's not in that form. The forest is not there, but Godavari river is there. But you can see a lot of places which are connected with Rama. Sita Gufa is there, temples are there. And one thing which I have been emphasizing time and again, that our sculptural art has been damaged a lot. So I showed you one piece dating to Gupta period, which connects the incident of the Shupnaka. That's a rare thing which has survived. So Indian museums do offer, build up our story, our narratives, and then they also helps in emboldening the incidents which have been mentioned in Ramayana as a proof. So thank you very much for being patient listener.
What a wonderful presentation. One thing comes to the mind is Panchavati. Like in the Panchavati, very clear directions are given. Where is it Panchavati? How much time it take to travel from Agastya Rishi Ashram to Panchavati? And also there was a very specific incident of how the Lakshman created the kuti. And you mentioned about the Karan Dushan. Then specific shloka mentioned do ghadi. One ghadi is do ghadi is 24. One ghadi is 24 minutes. Means 48 minutes, 14,000 rakshas. So
yes, it's written there.
14,000 rakshas in 48 minutes. So like, what was the speed of Sri Ram's arrows? Like how he was. It is mentioned that his hands would not be seen by an ordinary person. How fast they will move. If you contrast that with Ramanand Sagar's Ramayan serial, TV serial, people will get an impression that Sri Ram was a very slow thinking, slow moving, and too much time emotionally thinking about things will go on. Like even the Shok, which Sri Ram in his Viyog for Mother Sita, he says things to Lakshman only, not to others, only to Lakshman.
Yes.
And that is also lasted for 2 घड़ी 3 घड़ी. 2 घड़ी के लिए भगवान राम ने शोक व्यक्त किया. Means, so he showed the human emotions, which is also important. But my question to you is, how exaggerated and how, like, the media shows Ramayana how much negatively by not showing the character of Sri Ram. So what is your experience? Because now you're reading Valmiki Ramayan, you're collecting all this information plus your own photos. So what is your view on the after reading Valmiki Ramayan on Sri Ram?
Actually, what you are saying, really, why I started reading Ramayana is to understand myself, because I had read Ramcharitmanas coming from Uttar Pradesh, Varanasi and Prayagraj. I had read Ramcharitmanas. There is a lot of difference. There, in certain places, there is deviation. So, and though I did take Sanskrit literature in my civil services, so now I am making full use of that. I fully agree with you. I would see Rama will be even on human behavior. See, Rama has been described as human, but he is a supreme, I mean, epitome of human. So he has emotions also for his wife. He is very caring for his wife. It's not that some critics or liberals or these people would say that they will talk about Agni Paraksha and other things. You see, Rama has shown his emotions, and very rightly he says so. After all, he loves his wife, and he takes care also. That's why I mentioned about that. He asked Jatayu also that you take care while we are going and to find a perfect place for the ashram. Then he asked Lakshman that keep Sita in the nearby cave, guard her. So that as a husband he has to take care. In fact, when Biraj takes her in his lap, he is very angry. How it has happened? You have touched my wife. So those emotions are very rightly there. But what you are saying is very right, that Rama is only shown as a polite. He is very polite. He is very polite. Even to Supnakha or to Birad, he says Bhavan. Bhavati means respectfully, he said. But what you said, that's why I showed you that these all sages had, in fact, Agastya tells him when Khara is killed by him that this was the reason we wanted you to come here, uh, because we know that you only are capable of killing all these Rakshasa. And these incidents are hardly described. People will say that, means even in sculptural art, I have not seen that this Valmiki has described a big fight. And there are a lot of chapters, at least 5-6 chapters are there where first he fights Dushana, then Trishira, then there is a verbal fight where Rama challenges and tells that you are riding a Ratha here and you don't have courage to fight me. And then, of course, Khara also tells, and then there is a fight and he hurts Rama also with his arrows. But what you said is very right, that so fierce is the power of the Rama, and he so fast he moves that in do ghadi, I mean, he kills the whole 14,000 army of the Rakshasa. So this aspect has not been talked about. You are very right. Only people will come and question Rama. See, that is the problem. We allow our great Bhagwans to be debated upon. But these positive aspects, which Adi Kavi has described, are hardly narrated. And people don't read Ramayana. So our efforts shall be that, see, in Ramayana, everything is there. Now, Lakshmana describes the onset of winter beautifully.
Beautiful.
So there are plenty of things in Ramayana which we will discuss slowly.
And also when Sri Ram, I mean, Agastya Muni gave him the arrows to kill Ravan. And then he asks him, this ashram is protected by me. Now you go nearby. And then Lakshman goes and makes the land Samtal in Panchavati before he builds that Kutia ashram. Beautiful ashram. It's not that ashram which you see, a small ashram. See, when Lakshman builds something, it has to be elaborate. So large,
Yes.
beautiful ashram he is building because Lakshman is always in the mood of serving Sri Ram. And people do not know that Lakshman and Sri Ram are, some people know, some people do not, majority people know, are from different mothers. And so the and Lakshman builds a beautiful kutir fit for Mother Sita to live in that even that austere condition also. And Mother Sita is with full ornaments. She was not the way they show is not correct. She was wearing a
Very
sunehri
true.
sari.
Mother Anusuya, the wife of Atri, has given plenty of ornaments to
Plenty of
Sita.
ornaments.
And Rama is so happy with Lakshmana. In fact, he embraces him and he says that I am so happy that as a reward, I am embracing you. Valmiki mentions it.
Yes. And so Valmiki Ramayan gives us a window upon the actual social condition and how see any Vishnu avatar when he comes, they're always very gentle, soft spoken, and generally they have deep voice. Like Sri Ram's voice is considered very deep, Lakshman's voice is considered very deep, and they epitomize what a man should be, responsible man should be. And
Yes.
also like a good organizer of armies, a good organizer of society, and a good organizer in terms of uh, paying respects to the saintly people, sadhugan.
In
And
fact, whenever Rama enters the ashramas of these sages, he doesn't go directly. He would convey the message. I mean, see how polite he is. He would, though I mean, he could have been very arrogant. He's so powerful. So he conveys this message to the people of those sages that tell them that Rama, the son of Dasharatha, has come and wants to meet you.
that's right, that's right. Many things can be learned from Valmiki Ramayan. Tulsidas Ramayan is also great, but these subtle things about Do Ghadi and the historical locations, all those things are much beautifully described in Valmiki
See,
Ramayan.
any version of Ramayana would be great because those great people who would have understood Valmiki Ramayana and they then would have
They then wrote.
written in the local language.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean that we shall start mingling everything and convey false things. We also, I mean, at least some people shall read Valmiki Ramayana. It is very simple also. Those
Very
who
simple.
know Sanskrit, they can read it. And I'm making full use of my knowledge of Sanskrit. In
You know,
fact, IIT Kanpur has also done, I mean, now good things are happening. Means Ramayana has been, you can read Ramayana in different scripts, not in Devanagari, Valmiki, Telugu, Tamil, and have the meanings there.
one thing one thing I have a question. Don't make Ramayana as a management book, because it is a book on social structure of Treta Yuga. It is a book on how Sri Ram managed few things. But if you dilute it to just become a management book, then actually you don't learn anything. One thing is there, if you consider Sri Ram and Krishna are the natural leaders of the society. But if you consider Sri Ram as an inspirational figure, and so that you can learn something on how he dealt with different situations, then you can actually you make use of Valmiki Ramayana and Sri Ram's character. What is your view on this? But when you make it just as a management book, then it comes in the line of ordinary literature, which is just may not be useful for spiritual growth or yoga.
That is very true. I mean, you have to read like Bhagavad Gita. Uh, whosoever reads it, they say that the more you read it, the more you understand it. So in Valmiki Ramayana also you have to read it carefully. I mean, it's not that some people may use it. I mean, Rama character is so large that it has been said कि Ram तुम्हारा चरित्र इतना बड़ा है. I mean, your character is so large that anybody who writes about you will become an epic. So you are what you are saying is that's a small aspect. But Valmiki Raman has to be told again and again, and there are so many aspects that I don't find myself capable to comment on it. I'm still reading it, and there are lot many things to understand India also. See, like I had never I mean I have read Sanskrit literature, but in Valmiki Raman also Lakshmana would described, and similarly Pampa Sarovar has been described. So Valmiki describes India beautifully there. the weather. I mean, you will find these weather descending there, and the kind of similes which are there. I mean, you have to read it again and again. So management, of course, it helps in managing. Uh, That's one aspect only. But spiritual upliftment is the most important aspect of Ramayana. After all, Rama came here as an epitome of what a man shall be. Sita is the ideal wife. Bharata has also been described in Narayana. He has nothing to do, but he is being described.
That's right.
That how Bharat would be there. Lakshmana is thinking and telling Rama.
That's right.
So there are lot of things to be told. I mean, we have to read it again and again, and we have to keep sharing our interpretation.
Thank you, Rajesh ji, for coming on the show and touching on one of my favorite topics. And the people can connect with this presentation. Also, check out my book, The Global Footprint of Ramayan, and One Arrow, One Kill in the West, which is described Khardoshan, One Arrow, One Kill, 14,000 Rakshas in 48 minutes. No modern weapon has been able to do that. Get inspired by Sri Ram and become a Ram Bhakt. Jai Shri Ram. Namaskar.
Namaste. Thanks to everybody.